Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is going to be a contest entry video into Nick Rudow, his Push to 700 Subscribers contest. I was actually watching Ron Haggerty's channel the other night and saw he did a response to this. And it was fun watching and seeing some of the picks that Ron had. So as always, I kind of followed the trail back and found Nick's channel and subbed, and it was kind of a fun question, so I wanted to jump on board and support his channel by doing a response. So simply put, Nick just wanted us to share some songs that are cover songs that we kind of feel are better than the original. It kind of took it up a notch, if you will. So yeah, I just, the wheel started turning. I just went in and kind of picked, there's a ton, but just kind of picked a bunch of random ones, and here's what I picked. So let's just kind of jump right into it. I do want to stress, and I pulled these out at the very beginning, the first two are not covers that are better than the original, because I don't think anything could be better than the original, but they are just as good. And due to that, and considering what's being covered, I felt like they deserve to be represented in this contest. So first two, not better, but frankly, equally as good. So the first one I'm going to go with is by the one and only Hugh. This is Uptown Ship. I think his album from 1989. And he did an absolute fantastic cover of Bob Marley's and the Wailers' No Woman, No Cry. And again, I mean, that's one of Bob's most legendary songs, and no one can do what Bob does. It's just the way that Bob could dump his soul on stage is just absolutely amazing. And No Woman, No Cry, even though it's a song that maybe can get played out because you hear it a gazillion times over the years, it's just still one of his most powerful and moving songs to me. Definitely one of my favorite live performances to watch on YouTube. But yeah, Hugh did a cover of that on Uptown Ship there, and again, nothing's ever going to be better than the original, but it's just as freaking good. I mean, just the spirit and soul that Hugh poured into it, definitely paid much respect to what Bob and the Wailers did. So definitely just as good, which is again saying a lot when you're doing anything Marley. The next one's the exact same thing. Disturbed. This is Immortalized from 2015. And on this particular album, they did an absolute magnificent cover and paid great respect to Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, which is just not two things you would put together with a band like Disturbed and the Sound of Silence. But they did a version on that is just so freaking powerful. I mean, like I said, it's Sound of Silence is probably my favorite Simon and Garfunkel song of all time, and the way Disturbed took it to not even a metal place, but they kept it folky almost, but just brought a hard rock energy to it, and not by bringing guitars and things like that. But you just have to go listen to it. If you have not heard that cover, please make sure, out of everything that I show here, that would be the one I would want people to check out the most. So yeah, Disturbed's cover of Sound of Silence, magnificent. Okay, now we'll get into ones that I think actually are better. And the first one, which might be the biggest one on my list, goes to Gary Jules. And that I don't think I've ever pressed this on vinyl, so I only have the CD there. But Gary did a cover of Tears for Fears' Mad World off of The Hurting, off of this album here. Now, Tears for Fears, legendary 80s band. I mean, definitely one of my favorites. This is a great album as well. Their version of Mad World on here is absolutely fantastic. It's a kind of a medium pace, kind of poppy / somewhat kind of alternative type of version. But I just, as good as the Tears for Fears version is, they miss the boat, because this is how that song was supposed to be performed, which is just a very, very soft, like it's just a piano ballad type of thing. and Gary just nailed it. Oh my gosh. I know even Tears for Fears is looking at that going, God dang it, we didn't do that song right. Because, I mean, freaking nailed it. So definitely a much, much better cover there. The next one I'm going to go to, and Ron actually pulled out a song by Johnny Cash on his video. I think he did Ain't No Grave was the one that he chose as a better cover, which I kind of agree. But I'm going with a different one here, you know, on this from the Cash, the American recordings. And this is, what's this? This one's 4, I believe. But he does a number of different covers on here. Like he does a cover of Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode, which is great, but it's not better than the Depeche Mode version. He does a cover of First Time I Ever Saw Your Face. You know, Roberta Flack did that, Celine Dion did that, on, and great version of that here, but not better than Flack or any of them. He does a cover of Bridge Over Troubled Water, like on and on and on. Desperado, but his cover of Hurt by 9 Inch Nails, Cash did a much better version. I shouldn't say much better version, because I mean that's a great song by 9 Inch Nails. But again, it's like where Cash was in his life and where he was at the time he did this recording. He brought I want to say the word darkness, but it's not really dark in terms of like negativity. Dark as in like anytime Johnny Cash starts to sing about death, the afterlife, the like all of that stuff, like it gets so real when it starts to come out of his mouth. And it was kind of like that his whole career, you know, even going back to like, you know, just whatever, Ghost Riders in the Sky and blah blah blah. Just whenever he started talking about the spiritual realm and everything else, it was just like you could just vividly see and feel everything that he was singing about. And that's what he kind of does with Hurt on this album. And it's just like, oh my gosh. 9 times out of 10 when I listen to that, by the end there's a tear in my eye, like every single time. So fantastic cover there. Again, even though the 9 Inch Nails version is awesome, the Cash version is just a little bit better. Joe Cocker, you know, the one and only, his cover of With a Little Help from My Friends. Of course, you know, the Beatles. Cocker's version is way better than that. You know, the Beatles kind of had more of like the hop along poppy kind of, I guess, version of the way they wrote it, so to speak. And you know, Joe kind of brought the soul jazzy element to it, and again, that's exactly what that song needed. You know, especially when you see his performance of it at Woodstock, and it's just like there's no other way that song is meant to be sang or performed. So definitely a better cover there in my opinion. And the next one is a great cover by Whitesnake, which is off their '87 self-titled. And oddly enough, the cover that's so great off of this is a cover of their own song, which is Here I Go Again off of Saints and Sinners. Saints and Sinners came out in '82, and there was a version of Here I Go Again on this. And then in '87, they basically kind of they glammed it up a little bit. They glammed it up and hard rocked it a little more, where it could kind of fit more into the times. So like even from a language perspective, like I believe on the chorus on this one, it said like, you know, here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. And I think it said something like, I don't know why I'm going blank on this, but like a hobo I was born to walk alone or something like that. And then of course on the '87 version they changed that to like a drifter I was born to walk alone. So even just kind of the little changes in language you can tell was more fitting for the times. And like I said, they kind of rocked it up and glammed it up a little bit. So they did an amazing cover of their own song and turned it into a hit. So definitely a better cover there. Next I'm going to go here with Traffic. This is Last Exit. Definitely a fantastic album by them. And I'm going with the song of Feeling Good. Anthony Newley, I believe, was the one who yeah, Anthony Newley, I think, was the one who wrote it originally and did a version of it. And his version was definitely a lot more folky. Um, and it's kind of interesting too, because when you listen to his version, there's some elements or some parts where you can kind of hear a little bit of a country feel, like a country slash composer kind of coming out in different areas. But in all of the other areas, when you're really listening to it, you're like, that kind of sounds like David Bowie a little bit. But again, the overall version of Feeling Good that he did was definitely a lot more folkish, without question. And then of course, Nina Simone came along and made like a nice poppy, soulful version of it. But then I feel like Traffic came along and made like the soulful rock version of it. Especially with that, what's that organ called that was so popular in the 70s? Is it Hammond? I don't know where I'm getting that from, but you guys know like the Deep Purple and all that sound, that organ that was so popular. Like the way they use that in their version of Feeling Good is just awesome. So that's definitely a cover that's better than the original. Next here, I'm going to go with the Brothers Johnson. This is Right on Time from 1977. And I'm picking their cover version of Shuggie Otis, the song Strawberry Letter 23, which is great song. And this is from 1971, so it's only about 6 years later that they did the cover. But of course, 71, like late 60s going into the early 70s, and then what was going on in the later 70s, there's a big swing with the funk and everything that's kind of coming around and all of that. The Brothers Johnsons were all about that, the R&B and then funk elements. So Shuggie's version, it still has its R&B undertones, but there's also definitely kind of a Latin-y flavor that's put into it that's trying to pull it a little more towards that, like a Latin folk side, even though it's not all the way there, but you can still feel those elements. That's what the song's being pulled. And what the Brothers Johnson came along and did was they were like, it's the mid-late 70s, it's time for the disco and the funk. And so they put more of a disco funk pull to it, and it really is just kind of very fitting to that song because it does have such a smooth groove to it. But both versions are great, but I definitely like the Brothers Johnson version better. And next here, I'm actually going to show two at the same time. Well, one I'm going to go with here is Cyndi Lauper, which I think did a great cover that I'm about to mention that I feel is a little better than the original, along with Sinead O'Connor. This is definitely a classic album. I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. This is from 1989, which of course had her gigantic hit on there, which is Nothing Compares to You. And both of those are covers of Prince songs. I should say both of those. Nothing Compares to You, of course, is a Prince cover. And then the song When You Were Mine, which wasn't necessarily a gigantic hit for Cyndi off of that album, but it's definitely better than the Prince version as well. So both of them covered Prince's song, those two songs, better than I think his versions are. And not to get off onto like a whole different tangent, but I know like a long time ago I did a video saying who is the better pop star, was it Prince or Michael Jackson? And this is just another one of those examples that show kind of why I think it was Prince. Just because when you look at all of the covers that Prince has, or things that Prince has wrote that people have covered, that in a lot of cases are better than his versions, it just really shows there's a whole different level of genius in his writing and his creativity that is just really kind of unmatched. I mean, he wrote the song, just kind of even look at some of the titles off of this album. I could have picked Jungle Love by The Time, whose version I think is a little bit better than Prince's version. Manic Monday by the Bangles, which is a gigantic hit. I think that's a little better than the Prince version. Love Bazaar that I think he wrote for, and The Glamorous Life that he wrote. Both of those, Sheila E.'s versions are a little bit better than his, but it's just like, God, the amazing things that not even just his music, but everything he did for other people and the songs that he wrote that made them stars. It's just like, holy cow. But anyway, like I said, I don't want to get off track there, but yeah, I think both of those albums, those two versions, are better than the Prince version. And last but not least, kind of a give me, but I still think it's one that's worth mentioning. The one and only Aretha Franklin, you know, and of course one of her gigantic hits that put her on the map was You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, which of course was written by the one and only Carole King, which still has an amazing version, you know, without question. But yeah, Aretha's definitely takes it to another level. That's definitely a very hard soul R&B song, you know, and that's the energy that it needed, and Aretha brought it. So yeah. So there you go, VC. Again, just some of my favorite covers that are better than the originals. As always, let me know what you think. Let me know what some of yours would be down below, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.